Call yourself a fucking gangster. A shootout, right, is a fucking shootout! Like a western. Wankers. Fucking embarrassing. Waste of our time. Fucking waste of our time.
Well, guys, believe it or not, we're here for the second time. And the second time I get to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, and those of you who do not subscribe to the social construct that is gender in what is the 21st century, welcome to the Alex Cupid Show. I'm going to hate saying that forever, I swear. I absolutely swear to God. But hey, it's here to stay until somebody either attempts to cancel me or I get pulled to a corner and told why it's bad. Guys, I have a guest. And I hate the fact that I've been imagining the show, as I said in the last episode, for 10 years plus. And it's happening now. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is all happening. I have a guest. You've heard his voice before on episodes of Silly Whales. And now you get to hear it for even longer. Guys, I got Ryan. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, man, it's good to have you. It is very good to have you. And I have you on here for a multitude of reasons. One, because I fucking love you. Two, you are a symbol of being, a mature human being, as well as being what I've nicknamed you and called you, the Mosh Pit Daddy. And I'm just happy.
No, normally, I get called an adult and it confuses me. I've just got called a mature adult and that's really confused me.
I don't know if that's down to me not having a lot of mature adults in my life.
I definitely think it's that.
But hey, I have a roster full of, sounds fucking dreadful what I'm about to say, of older men in my life now who are in their early to late 30s. So it's all well and good.
So what you're saying is you could potentially be another P. Diddy.
Well, in fairness, you guys are all the older people. I'm the youngest one, so I think I'm the victim here. Blink twice if I need help. But it's a podcast, you guys won't be able to see it.
What are you doing with that baby oil?
Oh, God. Oh, dear.
Do you want to re-record this bit while we go?
Nah, we're fine. Why have Ryan on the show? Well, he's going to come on later on when Joe is back for an episode of Silly Worlds. But the reason why I have him on here for the Alex Cupid Show is because Ryan went through something pretty fucked up and pretty traumatic. And I want to discuss it. I want to break it down a little bit and understand it. And also want you guys to also hear it and see if anything connects with you or if it's a journey that you're embarking on yourself or you might sadly have to embark on at some point, the journey of recovery. Ryan, it's time. Tell us about when you got hit by a car.
Yeah, it's ironic because, as my best friend will tell you, I made so many jokes about wondering what traffic tasted like when I got a minor inconvenience. And it used to be a running joke that I was like, I wonder how fast I can get hit by a car and survive. And the estimated speed the guy said he was going at was about 30. I think it was probably closer to 40. So I think 40 is a good car. Should I intro myself as well? Explain a bit about me or whatever?
Do it all.
So I interrupted you. You had a question.
No, I didn't. I was going to say, did you get hit by a car going 40 miles an hour?
I think it was probably closer to 40. The guy that hit me was saying he was doing 30, but it's a very straight road that people speed up all the time. So I think it was at least 40.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, intro yourself. Tell us about who you are to preface the story, and then we can go into it.
So, as Cupid said, I am Ryan. I am 38. I'll be 39 this year. I use the social media handle Mosh Pit Daddy because I liked it when Cupid called me it. I am a dad of one. So son's just turned 13 a couple of days ago. And yeah, I am the person that Alex sends music to when he wants me to go, meh, it's okay. And I'm also the reason Joe needs a Lastel mention button on the podcast, because I was
Yes.
the one that introduced him to Lastel and In Me, who are my
Yeah.
favorite band.
Yeah. We did mention In Me on the show when I went to the concert, and I'm happy to say that more people now have heard of In Me from that, and I'm really happy. Really happy that that band exists. Really happy that you exist. Really happy that you're still alive. You know, because
No, definitely. Like, I will preface this by saying there's going to be a lot of talk about trauma and mental health. So, and just to sort of get in on what you said about glad I'm being alive, when I got hit by a car, like, obviously I didn't. So I'll tell the story properly. So it was a Monday night, and on a Monday I normally go to the gym during the day, and for what I'd been on a date that day, so I hadn't been in the day, and I got back and I was just relaxing. And it got to about 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was like, I need to go to the gym. So got my stuff, grabbed my bag, headed out my door. I had music on in my headphones. As I leave my house, I see a car coming far down the road, and I'm like, cool. I know it's there. Crossed the road thousands of times, but it can also not. It can also pull in at any point as well. So I cross one road, and then to basically cross the main part of the road, you cross a small road, and then you go across the main part. The main part, it's all completely clear. I couldn't see the car, so I assumed that it was fine to cross the road. I couldn't see the car because, and if you're one of these people, don't park your 4x4 or big vans or anything like this on a corner of a road. It makes it incredibly hard for pedestrians to see and get a clear view down that road. That night, there was a 4x4 parked on the corner just outside my house. And I went across the second part of the road, and as I did, I saw these headlights, and I caught it just enough to kind of step back, and it hit me on my right side, hit me straight in the leg on the right side. I got onto the bonnet, obviously through the impact, and I hit my head on his windshield on what's the passenger side. Didn't get thrown too far up in the air. Landed back on the road. Thought, oh, that hurts. Went to sit up, got to sort of from the laying position to the position where your elbows are underneath you and you're kind of halfway up. And then my body went, no, you need to lie down. And then I laid down. Somebody that I used to work with had actually gone past on the bus while it was happening, seen that I was laying in the road, got off the bus because the bus stops just outside, down the side of my house, and was like the first person other than the driver to be like present with me. She was also the person that went and got my parents and my brother, because I live about 5 minutes up the road from them. I was completely conscious through everything, probably suffering from concussion. I at no point could see what my leg looked like. I didn't see my leg until it was fixed. And then I was laying in the road for about 90 minutes before I got scooped up and sent to Coventry in an ambulance.
Jesus Christ. Are you happy that you didn't see your legs at all?
Yeah, so like I say, all the damage was on the right side. So it was dark, and I had like jogging bottoms on as well. So I couldn't see it. And from when I was laying down, I was essentially flat apart from my head, my backpack on my back, so slightly twisted, but I couldn't see down. And then when people were showing up, like, because like people from the houses nearby, because there's lots of houses, think that my brother was the first one to offhandedly say how bad it looked. And then because my mum came and basically sat next to me on the road, and she was like, "It doesn't look good." And my brother, and this is a trigger warning for anybody that doesn't like gore or violence, I'll mention the injuries now. My brother took one look and went, your ankle's not supposed to be facing that way. So in that, I suffered, I broke both my tibia and fibia in the lower part of my right leg, dislocated my ankle, 3 fractured ribs, 2 fractures in my collarbone, and 2 fractures in my pelvis.
Yeah, that's like that is. So when I found out that you got hit by a car, I think you sent me a message of something like, I think I sent you a message or something. You went, "Yeah, that's all good, mate. Just been hit by a car." It's like, what?
So that is not the funniest message that I sent whilst laying in the road. I text my best friend, hot by cat. Because like A, I was suffering from concussion. B, I didn't have my glasses on, and C, like my hands weren't working. Like it took me, I think, so I didn't know where my phone was initially, obviously, and then like when my parents got to me after 10 minutes or so after the accident, like I tried unlocking my phone with my thumbprint, it wouldn't work. Couldn't remember my password, and I was just like a bit out of it. Like I was aware with the concussion, possibility of the concussion. I needed to stay conscious because I needed to be able to convey to the ambulance crews or whatever, whoever else, the what I was feeling.
Like, wait, so you never lost consciousness throughout the entire thing of this, right?
Nope. The only time, literally the first time I lost consciousness, was when I was given the ketamine in the hospital for the first of the 2 operations I had to have.
Like,
and then with ketamine, you don't really get much of a choice unless you're fighting it. And I wasn't fighting it at that point because it was like midnight or so by the time I got to Coventry.
because we've spoken about it briefly, but and the reason why I didn't even speak about it properly is primarily because one, everything kind of flew by, because everything else happened as well. It wasn't just that. Like the car crash happened, well, the car accident happened, and then there's a massive change in your life anyway, and then everything just kind of just like boiled into one. So then we never actually spoke about the car crash. And this is going to be a shit question, but do you remember the amount of pain that you were in though?
So initially, wasn't in anything once I lay down. I'll be completely honest. And obviously that will be a mixture of adrenaline and everything else. And then as you're going on, like I was laying in the road and my backpack was up underneath me. So I was kind of laying twisted anyway. So that was hurting my back. And then I think about 45 minutes or so, after about 45 minutes, that was when sort of the pain kicked in. But it was also quite cold that night. So I think there was a kind of a bit of like numbness to it as well. A weird little side note. So I'm laying in the road, just been hit by a car, and I was laying there. There was probably about 10 people from like the street, and my friend and the driver. At this point, there's no emergency services on. Yeah, emergency services is the right thing. There was no of them present, and I'm laying on the road, and somebody in a 4x4 drives on the pavement to get around me because I'm laying in the road. They drove on the pavement. And and literally I was laying there calling the driver all sorts of obscenities. And it's really funny because like my brother turned up and like after he told me how bad my leg looked and he got sworn at, he was like, "So how do you feel?" And I just went, "Oh yeah, having a great evening, mate. How about you?" Like I was essentially putting on a bit of like an improv comedy show.
Yeah, I've noticed that the few injuries I've had, which mostly came from football, it's I revert to that straight away, like a comedy of getting everybody else to feel okay in a way, rather than focusing on the actual pain that I'm in. And even when I did my ACL, it was all about like, hey, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And I don't think I realized at the time how bad it was either when I had that injury. So, did you have any idea like how serious it was?
Mm, no, I think that's partly too because I couldn't see it. We'd obviously planned you coming to Northampton for Halloween, and I
Yeah,
was like, one of the first thoughts was, "Oh shit, I'm not gonna be able to do that." Like, I guessed it was bad just because of how my body initially reacted, but there was I didn't know like how bad it was. I just kind of went, "Yeah, it kind of hurts."
because
Like
I
I
remember
joked that
getting the
like I
message.
pirouetted.
So I remember getting the message, and I was like, "Yo, what the hell?" And I think,
So
yeah,
so like we said I'd been on a date with somebody that day, that morning, and we like as I was leaving the house, they just got some bad news, and I didn't like obviously I didn't respond to them, and then I think once I got the ability to get into my phone, she was one of the first people I messaged, and I was just like, "Hey, sorry, I haven't spoken to you for an hour or so. I've been hit by a car." And she thought I was joking. Like that person thought I was joking, and it wasn't until like I made sure that I text you and my best friend. Um, I didn't tell my son. Um, I didn't tell his mum either. I let my mum do that. Um, but I will get into why and the where he comes into the recovery part. I'll get into address all of that when we get into that part.
yeah. Like I think so. Now we're at the point where you're loaded up into the ambulance now, and I'm guessing you've been given like the morphine.
I was given so on the roadside. While I was laying in the road, I was given morphine. I was also given gas and air, and I didn't like that. Like I know, obviously, it's used for like pregnancies and things like that, but it just kind of made me feel really out of control. And I think I have, I am very much somebody that has a. I like being in control of myself. Like I
Yeah,
don't
because you're
drink
not
a
a
lot.
blackout drunk type of guy either.
Yeah, I don't drink a lot. I don't drink. I don't take any substances or anything. Um, I used to. Not saying like I'm an angel. I used to do all of that stuff. But it was very much a like I'm very much like if I'm out with my friends or a date or something, I am the person that with sits with my so I don't sit with my back to the room. I'll sit with like so I can watch the whole room.
So does it feel? Did it? I imagine it felt really strange that someone who values control, you're like a midfielder, really. You value that control of a situation. You had no control over what was happening.
Yeah, yeah, and there's been a lot of times during the sort of the healing and recovery and rehab phase where I've got frustrated because of that. But once again, we'll get to all of that once we do the recovery.
Yeah. So
So yeah, I was put into the ambulance. My mum got in with them, and literally once I was still conscious through all of the blue light, and it was like I was blue lighted, and I was conscious throughout that entire blue light journey to Coventry as well.
So then you arrive at the hospital, and it's a case of like, well, that's the thing. Look, we're dealing with like a health crisis, health service crisis at the moment. So it's, I
Can I
imagine
say
that.
something controversial?
Yeah, go for it.
Fuck the Tories.
Oh, that's not
Like,
controversial at all, mate.
like, like as much as people want to blame Labour, it, the majority of the damage to the NHS is because of the Tories being cunts. I will say my experience in both hospitals that I stayed in was amazing. I tried to be the nurses and the doctors and the surgeons were fantastic. The physios were fantastic with me. I am grateful that we have such an amazing service. And I was always making sure that I was thanking people for, taking care of me and repairing me and putting me back together. I was very conscious to make sure that I was thanking them for that.
Did you feel like there was ever, well, because the experience is positive, which sets you up nicely, and you were well looked after. But was there like ever a moment where you were just like, this is taking forever? Because you were at Coventry for a very long time. Was it like more than a week?
I was in Coventry for 3 weeks, and then I came back, and then I had 3 nights in Northampton. Yeah, so like I was in hospital for that long. Coventry is an hour or so away from where I live, and so like my mum was making that drive pretty much every single day to make sure that I had somebody to see me. And a couple of times she brought my son. The person I was seeing that I'd literally been on the date with that day, she came a couple of times as well. There was only a few days where I didn't have any visitors. And there, I don't know if you will have seen it. I put a video up showing a blanket. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if I put it on Instagram. Now, the blanket is a bit of a touchy subject because it was a blanket that was gifted to me by an ex-partner. And normally when I go through a breakup, I throw everything away. I didn't throw this one away because it has something that's really important to me on it. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles blanket. You've seen my tattoo.
Yep.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters were huge parts of my life when I was growing up. I had a Christmas where my parents bought me all of the Turtles toys and all of the Ghostbusters toys. My son is
Yeah,
named
boy.
after a character in the Turtles. And like, so Turtles has always been my happy place. And in all honesty, I completely forgot that it was my ex that bought it me. I thought I bought it for myself. And yeah, when I was laying in the roadside, like I literally said to my brother, here's my keys. Can you go and get my phone charger? And can you get my Turtles blanket? Because I was like, so I didn't sleep in the hospital sheets every night. I fell asleep with the Turtles blanket wrapped around me because it was like a safe cuddle.
Did you feel like it's like those nights in Coventry? Because not only are you stuck in a hospital bed, I imagine you also felt a little bit claustrophobic as well, just because of the sheer. Well, the situation itself probably hasn't set in yet, and then you can't move even if you wanted to. And again, you're a
Yes.
midfielder. You like control. So, what was that like? What were the feelings there, laying in that bed the first night?
So the first night there wasn't a lot because I was still under the influence of the ketamine and everything else after. So, and again, if you're not good with gore, so basically, the ketamine was given to me because before they could fix the leg, they had to straighten the leg because basically the bone had come up and out. So they had to, the ketamine was given to me so I could straighten my leg. So yeah, there was, and then so first night, and then literally I was first up in the operating theatre on the start of day one, essentially, and then so that was like I didn't really have time to feel until sort of full day two in the hospital, like because I've had no operations and like essentially they would get trying to get me to stand up like the next day. And in terms of what I was feeling, I was embarrassed because as a parent, you teach your child to cross the road, and you always make sure that you know they know how to cross the road safely. Um, and I felt embarrassed that I've been teaching my son to cross the road since you know he was small, and then I go and get hit by a car. Um, I was um, I was feeling incredibly grateful that I was still alive, which is a weird thing to say, but it's also not a feeling that I feel a lot. We'll probably discuss this more on the main episode, but I've struggled with my place in the world and depression and anxiety since I was 16. And sometimes it has been suicidal ideologies, but I've never acted upon them. And I had no intention of acting upon them. So yeah, I was embarrassed. I felt like I was a burden. Like that wasn't like day two, but there was times throughout the recovery and the healing I felt I was a burden. Like I said, my mum was travelling up. The first couple of weeks she had some time off from work anyway, but then she was travelling up after work. And I felt like such a burden to people. And it was really hard to deal with. I had a lot of nights where I cried myself to sleep. And literally, it was just a case of I would put the blanket over my head, just cry. I didn't want people to see me cry because I was in a ward with people with similar or worse things. There was four of us, and I didn't want them to see me crying. I felt isolated as well because, like I say, I was away from my family. I am big on routine. It's how I keep a balance in my life. And I was aware fairly early on that this is a 6 to 8 month recovery period. We are, as we record now on the 19th of February, we're 2 days away from 4 months. And I genuinely felt so, I felt so ashamed of myself because it was just a simple, stupid thing. And then you run through all the scenarios. Oh, well, I should have gone to the gym earlier in the day, you know, when it was a bit lighter. And there was a lot of negative and self-loathing emotions, I think is an easy way to summarize it all.
Like, because one of the things that I remember when it happened was, by the whole shock of it, it was more like, as good as Coventry Hospital was, you were like close to losing it just because of the general situation that you were in.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that you're doing physio already, and I was like, yo, Jesus Christ. Like, I think it was like you had the surgery, and the day after that, you were walking. And I was just like, I've never.
The day after they had me standing, we didn't do any walking or anything until probably a week or so.
Jesus.
But
Even then, like, you were standing.
even just standing, like So basically, to get me to stand, what they would do is they had this thing, and it was basically a bit like a stairgate, and you sort of pull yourself up on it, stand up on it, and they twist you to get you like into a wheelchair or something. But initially, they're just doing it so they can get you up on your feet, and then essentially you become. They're like, right, we want you to, be getting like wheelchair to like when you need the toilet and things like that. But like even that, so on, I'm sure I told you this. So when they were getting me to stand, there was genuinely days where I was really struggling. And rugby, where before the scrum hits, they have like a chat, they have like a big shout, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's or like in American football. So mine was, "Get up, you fat fuck."
Yeah, you told me this recently.
Yeah, and it was literally, and then when I was having days where I wasn't able to walk or whatever, it was, "Get moving, you fat fuck." It was essentially me self-depreciating. Can I just go back to what we were previously saying? Because I realized while I was talking, I actually wrote something while I was in hospital that I shared on social media.
Yeah, go for it.
And I put it up like the day, like it was on the month of the thing.
I think you sent me a screenshot of it.
Yeah. So, and I'm sort of reading it now to make sure that I've said everything. And something I didn't say was, in the immediate aftermath, I was scared. Like, I was scared that people thought I was okay because I was deflecting it well, because I was talking, I was trying to be normal. And in reality, I'm laying in the road thinking, there's a chance that I could never walk again. And yeah, I was very much like that was my main initial worry. Once I was aware there was something wrong with my leg, I was so worried that I'd never walk again. So I'm just reading it through, what I wrote, and so physio was hard. Like I said to you, they had me standing the day after the relationship, the day after the surgery, and I was so scared that my leg would break again. I was like internally, and I think outwardly a few times. There was times where I physically burst out crying while trying to stand up, because I was just so scared that, no, in my head, my body's going, no, if you get up now, your leg is going to break again, and you're going to end up on the floor again, and you're going to burden more people.
Like, was there pain or was it all emotional?
No pain. So the surgery, in the surgery, they obviously, second surgery, they reset they basically removed the large bone in my leg, and replaced it with a metal rod, which is secured by a spike essentially right through my knee. Obviously, as well, when you think about it, when you're sitting up and getting up from sitting, you're putting a lot of pressure through your hips. Pelvis. Well, I've got a fracture in my pelvis, and my hip really hurts, and my knee really hurts, and my leg really hurts. So I was, even just like, they'd make me stand like once a day initially, and even after that, I was on morphine. Basically, they have like a slow dose morphine that works over 4 hours, and basically after that, after physio, I was also allowed to have like more morphine on top of that. Like, it's called oral morph, so oral morphine. And yeah, so I was doing that like after every physio session.
Like,
There's another point, but we'll get to that when we sort of get towards like the end of my journey in hospital. There was also days where like none of the painkillers were working. Like I was
I
being
was gonna
given
ask.
morphine, and I was being given like other painkillers. Like while I was in hospital, like if I found physio particularly hard that day, whether that would be when I was trying to stand or whether I was trying to walk, I would literally collapse into the big chair that was by my bed with like essentially an ice pack on my ankle, looking like I'd just played 85 minutes in the Carabao Cup final. And like didn't matter how much morphine I was given, wasn't it wasn't touching it. Obviously, as well in hospital, you don't tend to sleep. Like a lot of the times, I was sleeping just because my body was just exhausted, and so I was very I was never sleeping because I was tired. I was sleeping because I was physically and mentally exhausted.
Does your body just reach a limit where like you can no longer function awake? So you had no choice because like in
Yeah,
hospital, there's loads of
essentially.
really like foreign noises, there's beepings, there's like other
Yeah,
patients doing this and making noises and all that stuff as well.
and like I was having observations taken from me every 4 hours because I was essentially on a high dependency ward. Now I sleep with loops in anyway, and if anybody has an issue with sound or noise or struggling to sleep, I recommend getting loops. This episode is not sponsored by loops. The
I don't even
products
know what
on the
loops is.
market. So they are just literally in ear, like little in ear noise cancelling things, and they're really good for people on the spectrum as well because they do lots of different grades of them. I sleep in with like the heaviest grade, the heaviest of noise suppressions that can take like noise levels down by like 30 decibels, which when you're trying to sleep is a lot, especially when you're trying to sleep in hospital.
So we're now at a point now where it's been like a week or two and you started walking. Is there, did you always feel that there was like a light at the end of the tunnel, or was there something else like a very gradual thing where you were like, oh, I'm going to get through this?
So when I was in hospital, I sort of once I come to terms with or got my head around, because whenever anything like major happens to me, I sort of have a day where I need to feel my feelings and then I can essentially plan. I sort of went, right, the doctors were like, it's a 6 to 8 month recovery. And in my head, I went, I want to be back at work. I wanted to be back at work by the start of January. And then I was like, but initially, my first like blocks were standing, walking, then back at work.
So there's the process of, because even I got lost midway through the stage of your recovery because you were doing the physio and then now because I think the time when you were walking, did you have like a walker as well? The
Yes.
Yeah.
So to initially get you walking, you have essentially like an adult walker, and you rest your forearms on it, and it kind of you do your little shuffle steps, and that's how, and then it slowly builds you up, and then they have a thing called it's called the gutter crutch, and I struggled with that, and so after I was comfortable with the walker, they essentially gave me crutches, and I literally was going from there.
So while you were in Coventry, you never walked unassisted.
No, I didn't even
So,
stand unassisted until I got to Northampton.
Jesus. So now, yeah, we'll go to Northampton. So now we're in Northampton, which is like close to home for you.
Well,
And
Northampton is home.
yeah, and the journey is like, well, the end was in sight at that point, right? It's only 4 days you were there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I didn't know how long I was going to be in Northampton.
Yeah, 'cause I remember you saying that. I remember you saying that you could be here for a while. You weren't too sure.
Yeah,
And
I was
at
essentially. I
that
wasn't on a
point,
ward. I was in like a side room on my own. I don't know if we've ever spoken about the day of being transferred.
no, let's do it.
So, um, so I woke up and like the nurse comes around. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I'd been moved out of the high dependency ward into a more general sort of ward at this point, and I was like, well, that's good. I suppose it's a good sign. Um, but I didn't know how much longer I was going to be there. And I woke up. It's about 6 o'clock, and the nurse is doing my observation. She's checking my blood pressure. She's checking that I'm still breathing, um, and everything else. And she goes, "Oh, I think you're going home today." I'm like, "You what? Amazing, great, fantastic." And then about 10 o'clock or so that morning, the surgeon's like assistant, they have a proper name, but I can't think of it, came around and was like, yeah, we are going to transfer you to Northampton. They've accepted your movement. There will be they said between 4 and 10 to collect, 4 and 8 to collect you. So I'm texting my mum to say, don't come and visit me. Um, because I'm being transferred to Northampton. And then and I'm texting a few other people, telling them that I'm coming back. I'm coming back to Northampton. I'm close to being at home. And then I get 8 o'clock comes, nobody's been, and I speak to one of the nurses, and they're like, "Oh no, they're definitely still coming for you." And 10 o'clock comes, and there's like they're essentially closing the lights off in the ward so people can get to sleep. And I'm like this, they're not here. And I was getting frustrated. I was crying. I just wanted to go home. And then I think I fell asleep, and about midnight I get woken up, and it's by like one of the sisters on the ward, and she's like, "They're here for you. Let's get you up." And I'm just like, fucking amazing. I'm amazing. It's like amazing. I'm like, I'd been like, as the day had got on, I was feeling a lot, and like they didn't no show. Um, that you know that I was very much in a space where like I didn't. I thought, oh, they're gonna keep me here another day, and yeah. So then I got just. Well, I didn't get blue lighted this time because there was no need for it. And like, I just remember sitting there, like, and sitting there or laying there in the back of the hospital, and pulling out of Coventry car park and just saying thank you to the building, um, just for essentially getting me back on my feet.
Like, so now we're in Northampton, and well, the first night there, is it now? Did you know that you only spent 4 days there?
Nope, I had no idea how long I was going to be in hospital for at any point during any of this. Um, like they by that point, I was getting around fine on crutches. We'd started in Coventry a couple of days before, working on like getting upstairs and things like that and steps. But I had no idea how long I was going to be in Northampton for. I have friends that work in the hospital in Northampton, and obviously, with it being in Northampton, I had like my friends could come and visit me, which gave them, which meant that it was a lesser burden on my mum. she wasn't having to come every day, and even though it's obviously it's a lot shorter drive, but like my brother could come and see me. Some of the people that I worked with came to see me in those days. My friends that worked there were like popping in when on their breaks and stuff. Like my brother came in like one day and he bought McDonald's and things like that.
You love it. Love it.
Yeah, and but I was in like a side room on my own, so it had like its own like bathroom and everything else. And by that point I was on crutches, and like I think, and I'm sure you've seen the video. I basically one morning I got up and like was doing like giving myself a wash and sorting myself out, and I just took a video of myself just standing with no crutches or anything, and Joe, get your Lastelle button ready. I posted a video of me just dancing on the spot to Lastelle to sort of celebrate it.
What song?
Changes with the season.
Ooh, that's a good song to dance to. Yeah. Like, was there any pain at that point for you?
Yeah, I mean, even like now, there is still pain there. It's a lot less. I'm not on any medication. While I was in hospital, I was still on the slow release 4-hour morphine, and then when I got released, I was given enough morphine for 10 days, and I think I took it for 5 because I'm aware that morphine can be addictive.
Like, so now we're at the point where you're being discharged and it's official, but you're actually definitely going home. What's the feelings there?
So I was discharged in like the evening because like they discharge you and then they have to go and get all your medication and everything that you're taking home with you. And like one of the worst ones I had was the anticoagulant injection every day into my stomach. Um, and I had to do that when I came home as well for like 2 weeks after, and I hated it. It was like genuinely one of the worst parts of all of this. And I don't have a thing with needles. I have a thing about seeing a needle go in, but because you put it in your stomach, you kind of have to watch it go in.
Like,
and so yeah, I was released in the evening, and like my mum called the car around to sort of hospital, and an orderly that was on the ward that night wheeled me out, and I remember being wheeled at the um the to the doors of like the main doors of the ward, and just full on sobbing, because there were points when I was in hospital in Coventry where I didn't know how long. There was genuine times I thought I was going to be in hospital forever, and literally I got to my mum, and I'm still in tears, and she I couldn't speak, and she literally like had to get into her car, so I had to stand up out of the wheelchair, like stretch myself in and get down on there, and that was painful. And literally, we sat there in like the waiting bay at the hospital, and like I think for a good minute I was crying, and I was just so relieved to be coming back to home, essentially.
so now you're back home, day one home. What is the feeling that you're? Well, like a lot of these questions are, to summarize, what is the feeling here? But I think the slight difference of this question is now you're home and now you're no longer in the hospital. You're no longer constricted to your movements bar your physical limitations. What is the first thing that you did when you got home?
laid down on my bed, turned my Xbox on. Like I literally laid down on my bed, turned my Xbox on, didn't put anything on, but like obviously just listened to the noise it makes when it started up, and just took some deep breaths.
Is because this is all flown by quite quickly, actually. Because now in present day, recording this on the 19th of February, and you're now back at work. But it
Yeah.
felt like 2 weeks ago you were still like in a mode where you were nowhere near going back to work. It felt like the period of time that you were out, just barely getting things done and getting things together. It felt like it was going on forever, because I remember there was an In Me show in London that we had booked, and it was very touch and go. This was what was it? December the show was?
December. I'm sure it was like December, like middle of December.
Yeah, and I was very naive and thinking, heck, we can make it work. We can make it work.
I was confident that we were gonna. I was gonna make it.
Yeah,
Like, and I remember
damn.
like me and you discussing, and you were like, literally, I'm trying to figure out like the most crutch friendly way to get you around. And I was confident. And even the day of the show, I am like, even the day of the show, I was debating, saying to you I could do it, because my one thing in my head that I was saying throughout this entire thing was, if I believe that I can do it, I can.
Yeah.
But then, like, because, and this is where the control thing comes in. Like, my mum was very cautious about everything, and even she still is now. Like, so as we speak now, I can walk around freely, like without crutches, and be okay. I'll start limping after a while, but I can do that. But like, if I turned up at my mum's house without my crutches, she gives me so much shit. Like, and like me and my son were going to the cinema on Sunday, and I was like, oh, I'll walk. I'll take a crutch. I can walk, because I still use a crutch to sort of get around. Like, if I know I'm going to be walking a lot, or if I'm like getting around. So like we said, I'm back at work now part time. Like, I'll use a crutch when sort of getting around town, because your body loses so much of its energy. Laying in a hospital bed for 23 hours a day or whatever. And it's a physical and mental sort of toll on it. So like I still use a crutch now. If I'm around the house, I'll walk around without crutches, and at work I'm walking around without crutches. But as a general rule, like, I'll try and take my crutches everywhere. I'll try and take a crutch everywhere.
When do you
And
foresee yourself like walking without crutches?
I mean, once again as well, it also depends on what I've done the day before. Like, if I've had a day where I've not really done anything that day, I've stayed in for whatever reason. Like, the next day, I'm more comfortable walking around on it without crutches. Like, or if like I need to go, or if I want to go to like one of the corner shops around the corner, or Bossman's Chicken Shop.
Bossman's Chicken.
Oh, Bossman's Chicken. This episode is sponsored by Bossman's Chicken. Don't use the big brands. Use Bossman's Chicken. So we like that will also have an effect. Like, what I've done the day before will have an effect on what I can do that day. Like, obviously, I said to you, I went on that night out and I didn't use my crutch. Like the next. the next day I was like, so my leg still swells up. Like my knee swells up because it's got a pin through it. Or if I've had like physio, it'll swell up. When I wear socks, I have to fold them back over the top of my trainers or my shoes or my boots, because otherwise it all just swells up. So like I remember the Inmi show because, like I said to you earlier, I was so I was so adamant that I'd be getting back to work at the start of January, and literally, like, I got signed off in when I got the sign off at the start of at the start of December, and the doctors had signed me off for 2 months. I felt so low. I felt really lost.
Why?
Because I felt that I failed in my goal that I'd set myself.
Because you wanted to be back by January.
Yeah,
But then,
because I
yeah,
work in sales, and January sales, I mean, my wages aren't commission based, but I have my wages and then a commission. And
you're thinking
like,
bonus season.
yeah, essentially, I'm like, I can, I can sell. I think the most I've done in the 3 years in January, I think I've sold like £60,000 worth of stuff,
Jesus.
and I get 1.5% on that.
Yeah, that's big. Like,
Yeah,
now you're back
and as
at,
well,
so,
like, throughout after month one, I'm on statutory sick pay. I'm on, like, I had to apply for universal credit, and like, essentially, and I was saying to somebody earlier, like, there is an £800 difference before any bonuses in what I'm getting with SSP and universal credit. There is an £800 shortfall. Like,
yeah, that's a killer.
I was basically paying enough to pay the rent on where I live, um, paying some, paying off like a loan that I have, and then like paying money to like my child support, and then like maybe having sort of 40 or 50 quid to last me a month.
Did you find, so I guess now we're at the point where, like, actually, let's go to when you went to Blast Chamber. Because
Yep.
now that's your main night out, and now we're coming towards the end. That's your first night
Of what
out.
we thought was going to be a really short podcast, and it's
Yeah.
over an hour already.
Ah, that's fine. But like, now we're towards the end. It's your first night out. You're now starting to, like, you are Super Saiyan 2. Okay. And now you're thinking, okay, maybe the Mosh Pit Daddy's back. That first night out, did you have any sort of trepidation? Did you have any sort of like feelings of maybe this is a bad idea? Or was it straight off, do you know what, fuck it, I can do this. Let's go for it.
My entire thing was, as soon as I get in there, and as soon as there's like the first song that I know, because Blast Chamber is something I've been going to since I was 16 years old, like on and off. So like, I've been getting, so 20 years on and off, and as soon as like I was like, and I knew in my head as soon as I got in there, and the first song that I knew was playing, I'd be fine. Once again, I don't drink. Even if I did, I had no intention of drinking. Like, I can go out and have like one or two and be fine, and then run on water for the rest of the night. I think I had Coke when we got in there, and the rest of the night I was on water. I think at one point I got given a Jaeger bomb, so I did that. But like, I had no intention to drink heavily anyway. But yeah, so I was very much like, and as soon as it started, like, it's always felt Blast Chamber is So I have this thing. I have lived in 5 or 6 different houses in 2 different sort of counties. And even where I am now, I've never felt like I've had a home. Like the place that I'm in now is the closest thing that has felt like a home, because it, although I live in a house share, like I have my space and I pay for it all myself. I control who can come in, who can come in, what it looks like. This is the closest place that I've called home, apart from Blast Chamber. Because in Blast Chamber I can be myself. That's where the true Mosh Pit Daddy comes out. I can scream my ass off. I can shout. I can headbang. I can throw myself around, and it's to music that has kept me alive since I was 16 years old. And same as what I've said to you about in-me shows, when I'm in a crowd of people around music, and like the feeling of when you're in a crowd at a gig and the headline band comes on, there is a second as they hit the stage, the whole crowd comes alive and it gets loud, and they've not played a single note. They are just stepping foot on stage, and there is a single moment where the whole crowd's energy is up, and where everybody's just waiting for that big explosion of that first song, and you know it's going to be loud. Fight Star, Wembley Arena, they have this really epic Blade Runner intro, and then they open with Paint Your Target, which starts with a massive scream, and
Love that
hearing
song.
18,000 people or whatever Wembley Arena holds all scream in unison, that one big opening scream. Hook that shit into my veins. Like, that is, I've said to you about the Fight Star show, because we met up on the day of the Fight Star show and we had lunch,
You did.
and the whole show I was like, come on, they've released cheap tickets, come and experience this with me, even though you don't know any of the songs, or you might know one of the songs, come and experience it with me. And if I could live one show again, it would be that show, because I screamed so much with the lyrics. The song set list was perfect. I was crying happy tears at many points in it. And
Like,
Blast Chamber is the same kind of thing, a little bit less, because there's not an interaction from a band or whatever, but it's the same kind of feeling.
so I have to go to Blast Chamber. That's what we're pretty much getting to the point of now. It seems like it's speaking of that experience, actually, when I walked in, I was so scared when I went to see Lastel a few weeks back. I was so scared I was going to be late, and I walked in as they were playing Pine, which is the opening song, and same feeling, like tears in my eyes.
And
Got a
again,
video for
like
you.
we tried to figure out me getting to that, and I
Yeah,
think it was a mixture of I still didn't feel, and which is ironic because it was the night before Blast Chamber, and like that was another reason I didn't want to mess up Blast Chamber. Like,
yeah,
Blast Chamber to me was the start of this new chapter of healing.
yeah. Like it's a logistical nightmare when you're not 100% traveling through London. It is. It's a
Yeah,
whole logistical nightmare. Like, I remember even traveling back into London from a wrestling show, and I've never been hungover before, but I must have drunk like so much in excess, and I couldn't see anything. It was bright.
yeah,
Like, even walking through London when the sun is out can kill people.
yeah,
like
yeah.
let
Like
alone
London is
being somewhat
like
disabled.
Like I've been going to London like since I was 14, on my own, and I can navigate London fairly well. It still always disorientates me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. It's like even when you talk about shows that to relive, right? I would love to relive that show in the Crawford Arms when I first saw Last Still an Enemy, because it's just
Yeah,
like I have this really sad thing where I forget how I recognize like a song, how I learned about a song. I can
yeah,
never forget that though. I can never forget that. But I'd love to be able to relive not knowing the songs. And then when I saw In Me again in December, like you said, like similar to Fight Star, starting off with Paint Your Target. In Me starts off with Underdose, and it's just a perfect way of getting it all started. Like, there's
that's the
such a
first
good
single.
choice for an opening song. And it's like,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, great, I love it. And
yeah. And and
oh
I
yeah,
remember like turning to you when we were at that show at the Crawford and seeing you have the biggest smile on your face. And I think that was probably like the first time we both said that we love each other as well.
yeah,
And
boy.
I remember just like at one point just grabbing you and just giving you like the biggest hug ever, because In Me has been my favorite band since I was 16. You saw how I interact with every single member of that band. They know me as friends. They know me as people, you know. Dave messaged me while I was in hospital. Jono, the guitarist, messaged me while I was in hospital. Pete, who is like the stand-in drummer who was drumming that night, messaged me. Like, and to me, if you had told me that when I was 16, that these boys would not only be able to pick you out of a crowd, but they would message you when you've had an accident, I'd be so fucking happy, and I still am. They are they are my favorite. They are my favorite band ever, and they will be my favorite band. Today is the 13th anniversary of their album, The Pride. I have lyrics from that album tattooed on me, and I put it up on Instagram earlier in my stories, and they shared it.
Like,
Like, I am waiting for this next tour, because as soon as the date's announced, I'm messaging you and figuring out which shows we're doing. Because
I
I will go
am
to,
so ready
obviously
for
on
it.
that Lastel tour. Obviously on that Lastel tour, I saw In Me twice in 3 days. I can see him three times in 3 days. I don't care. It's the same set list. I don't care. I will sing along just as loud and with just as much passion, because they are my they are my favorite band. The thing about the the accident, I had the In Me shirt on that I had an In Me shirt, the In Me shirt on that I bought and I wore to the show at the Crawford. So the one you've got, the purple logo. I
Yeah,
I obviously cut the sleeves off, so I was on my way to the gym. Um, and I had an In Me hoodie that I've had since I was 18. They had to cut both of those off, and they were thrown away. And I won't ever get that In Me hoodie back. And that In Me hoodie was like a comfort hoodie because it was really thick as well and had a massive hood.
yeah. Like, that's how annoying it is. Like, you lose those moments, but then I guess what you gain from it is you gain that knowledge of knowing that hey, your favorite band like knows to reach out to you when shit's going downhill. And which what I find even crazy now we're at the point now where we're pretty much at present day here. Um, one of the things that we've discussed is masking pain, and
Yeah,
you are top tier, elite, world class at masking mental pain.
yeah,
But then in this time, you had physical pain as well. This
yep.
sounds like a really fucking dark question. But what is harder to mask? Physical pain or mental pain?
Well, I'm gonna answer it by asking you a question. So when I was in hospital and we were messaging, I would tell you if I was having a bad day because my leg was hurting. It wasn't until Saturday I explained some of the mental pain that I go through. So it's easier for me to mask mental pain because I've been doing it since I was 16 years old. I've been, and this is probably something that we'll go into more next time I'm on, because I know you said that Joe wants to ask me some stuff. Like, I don't think like our conversation Saturday night, and I think it stunned you a little bit when I explained some of the stuff. And like, even after we hung up the phone, like, I cried because, like, I I didn't. You were shocked what, because I think you just made some offhand comment about, oh, you're fine, you're doing okay, and I just went, no, I'm dealing with this, and you just went silent.
Yeah, because I never assumed that, especially you, that you're doing like A-okay. But I never assume that you're doing. I know that shit's going on, but I never know how bad it actually is. I assume that
Yeah,
you're like you're like at worst you're 4 out of 10, but most of the time you're like 5 or 6.
yeah.
I've never. It never clicked in my head that you could be doing a 2 or 3 out of 10.
So after we finished talking, and I sort of laid there, um, trying to sleep unsuccessfully, I wrote a really long thread on Threads, about some of my feelings. And I said that essentially, if you could split it into when I'm feeling good and when I'm not feeling good, it's an 80-20 split, and I'm not feeling good. Like, my baseline is very much, um, I'm okay. And during a lot of this recovery time, and I said to you this as well, when we were talking Saturday, through a lot of through everything, I wasn't really dealing with my emotions and like feelings as well as I could have done while I was in hospital, because I was so focused on the physical, standing, walking. Um, I had a rule where I wouldn't let if my son was visiting me, um, and it only happened a couple of times, and I was doing physio, he wasn't allowed to be on the ward. Somebody would have to take him to go get a drink or something, because I didn't want him to see me in pain. Which is ironic, because I've got a lot better at talking to him about my emotions, what I'm feeling. So it was like, I didn't want him to see me struggling to walk or struggling to stand up. Like,
Like,
if I knew if I knew he was coming, I'd make sure that I was like sat up and trying to like and smiling, and like I chat to him like, not like I do with him, because
do you feel like
I didn't want him worried.
now? Well, now you've already passed the home stretch. Now it's now just a matter of continuing and starting the new chapter. Has he now seen you in pain since?
Yeah, well, like and he'll have seen me in pain, obviously in the hospital or whatever, because he might have like walked into the ward when like I'm trying to walk, and I would literally just be like, "Can somebody take him out, please?" I'd stop what I was doing and say, like, "Can somebody just take him out? I'll be done in a minute," sort of thing. Take him for a drink, or take him, and can you grab me like a drink or something, like. And he'll obviously see me like when we're out and about, like when I have him when we're out and about, um, like Sunday, like he was constantly checking that I was okay. Like, even though I had my crutch, like he was checking I was okay. He was making sure that if I said, "Oh, I just need a second," like he'd just sit and chat to me, like, and I'd lean while I was leaning against like a lamppost or a wall or something. So yeah, like I just didn't want him to see that initial thing, because even in my head, I was still doubting whether my leg would hold up. I'm a lot more confident in my leg's ability now, essentially.
Okay, I think we're now at our own closing stretch here. And before we get into recommendation station, is there anything else that you would like to say about your general experience here?
Thank you to the NHS. Like what you guys do and what you guys put up with from people on wards and what you guys do, it's amazing. Thank you so much to the kind people. On the off chance that anybody that I came into contact with hears that while I was being treated, thank you. You do an amazing service, and thank you to all NHS workers. You are criminally underpaid. You are criminally underappreciated. The Tories are fucking wankers, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like the Labour government's going to do much more to help you. I fucking wish they would, because without you and without people that come across from other countries to help underpin the NHS, this country would be fucked. Well and truly fucked. Like, the food's terrible. It's just what it is. But the nurses and the doctors, surgeons and porters, and the people that help are just so amazing. Like the trainees, like everybody, you can all see that you give a shit, but you are so worn down by management and how they've been treated and how they're treating you, and because of how they're being treated by their local NHS trusts. Thank you so much to anybody who goes to work in a hospital, in a mental facility, in any medical profession, with the intention of treating everybody with kindness and compassion. Because some days it might be the only kind words that they hear, because the voices in their head are telling them the worst possible things.
Yeah, 100%
And
that message.
if anybody else has gone through, or is going through, or is potentially going to go through this, breathe, and it will work out. Whatever is meant to be will be. Alex, you know this about me. I am a Satanist, and I don't mean that I go around sacrificing goats. I have a belief that what is meant to be will be. I
Yeah,
wasn't meant to.
boy.
I wasn't meant to die that day. It could have been a lot worse. I could have hit my head on the way down. I could be in a vegetative state. My son could be no longer have his dad to just celebrate his birthday with him. So yeah, don't.
All
And I'm gonna just generally say, don't ever be afraid to talk to your friends about how you're feeling. Like, I have a small friendship circle, but I know that every single one of them would go to war for me, and I would go to war for them, yourself
yeah, boy.
included. Like if you rang me and went, right, I'm on one bridge, I'm gonna jump, I'd be on the first train up there, and I'd come and sit with you on that bridge. I'd come and sit next to you, and we chat about Khalid Boularouz playing for Chelsea with the number 9 on his back. Because that's the game that me and you played. The random footballer game. We did it in classic football shirts.
Yes, we
Guess the
did.
footballer on the back. But yeah, like, don't be afraid of keeping your circle small, because 5 loyal friends are better than 30 fair weather friends. And my friends showed up for me, whether it's on the end of the phone, whether it's they were coming in to see me, whether they were FaceTiming me. They showed up for me. show up for your friends. If you're friends with somebody, you want them to be the best version of them that they can be. Call them out on their bullshit. If you're a man and you've got men that act like a dick to the women, call them out. The world needs safe places for men. It needs safe places for men. It needs safe places for women. It needs safe places for anybody, no matter how they identify. Because if we stop judging everybody based on their ethnicity, their gender, their sexuality, do you know what we all are? We are all a bag of bones being piloted by a brain that most of the time doesn't, when you're like us, doesn't want you to be alive. So just treat everybody as if they're having their worst day.
You know what I like about this show is that, well, everything to do with City Wells, whatever, is that we have streams of consciousness at times, and it's always good to have it. Because you get to hear people's raw emotions, like we just heard from you here. And now you're on the path of a new chapter. You're back into work. You're doing all this stuff. I think the only thing I can say is, one, I'm proud of you. Because that is a lot to overcome. But also how you've overcome it. Because there's other little things we've had that you've dealt with, what we're not really going to go into, but you've had to overcome those things as well. And then you've had to overcome the social interactions based around your injuries. Then you have to deal with the mental, the physical pain, the anguish, the uncertainty. And when I say, like, you know, you're a mature person, you laugh at it, I don't think that most of my friends, regardless of the age, would have dealt with it. I don't want to say with class, but it's the right word. With the composure and the class that you have dealt with it. So you set an example. That's what you've done. You set an example for your kid, for me, for Joe, for anyone who's like younger or even older listening to this, of like, oh, how can I come back from something devastating? Well, there we go. You have the blueprint right there. And it's, yeah. Before we move into recommendations.
Can we, like, lighten the brevity a minute? Like, release some of the brevity of what you just said. Tell them, or tell the listeners, the thing that you hyped me up with.
What did I hype you up with?
Without going into specifics.
Oh, yeah.
About a person.
Oh, sure. Cool. Effectively, Ryan did something incredible, okay? And if you are listening to this and you are a fan of Andrew Tate or any of those fucking dickheads, I'd like for you to listen the fuck up, okay? Because I don't think he could do this, even if he wanted to. Even if he tried to force himself upon somebody, I don't think he would. I think he would get his ass.
He does repeatedly. Amanda.
He is.
He's a Drake fan. Put it that way.
Okay, but here's the thing. Andrew Tate and those guys talk a big game. Ryan here is the big game. Straight away, somehow he does this where he has managed to, while being barely mobile, win a woman's heart. Like, I don't think you understand what, like, logistically speaking, given everything he's spoken about in this episode of the Alex Cupid Show, he still manages to sling some dick. And I don't think you understand how crazy that is. That is N'Golo Kante under 3-man press levels of excellence.
For all you EFC players, I've got press proven technical plus.
Yeah. Like, you know, that is coming in clutch in search and destroy in the 3v1. That is, like, it's something else. And I'm not saying this as he's a womanizer. No, that's the thing. I wouldn't call you a womanizer. But I would just say it speaks to your character that you were able to do that. Excellent.
yeah, like unfortunately that didn't work out to due to circumstances majoritively out of my control. But I was still trying to be emotionally available for somebody. Like I said,
Oh,
I'd been on a date that morning. I'd been
oh
on a date
God.
with the person that morning.
God. Um, it's time.
Like it was
for
the
choo-
second date.
Was it the same person?
Yeah, we'd literally been on a second date that morning.
Jesus. Yeah, I look at he still seals the deal. All right, with that being said, I'm going to split this up into 2 episodes.
No, One
Um,
Piece.
and it's now time for Choo Choo Recommendation Station. Yeah, we're bringing this into the Alex Cupid Show just for this. My recommendation is for you to drink water. That is
Taking a
it.
sip for you now.
That is it. Where's my fucking water bottle? Right here, mate. Drink water, enjoy yourselves.
Muzzle time.
That's it. And that's it. Ryan, you have a song.
Yes. So I'm going to recommend a song to you all. I recommend that you also then go back and listen to the album. This is from their new album, but they also have an album, and I'm just pulling up the name. Sorry, please pause for this brief
Well, actually,
musical interlude.
why you put up the
Uh,
name? I actually have another song. La Dispute, Kings Park. That's a song for you guys to listen to.
so the song I'm going to recommend is by a band called Arm's Length. It is their new single "Funny Face," which was released last week. And Arm's Length make amazing music that makes you think about your feelings. My favorite album by them is an album which is called "Never Before Seen, Never Again Found." Listen to that album; it's incredible. But this new song, "Funny Face," is a song about disconnection and feeling lost from people. And the lyrics are just some of the best writing about emotions that are quite associated um, with mental health. I will also say from the album that I recommended, Overture, which is the opening track on the album, it is all a song about not wanting to be here anymore. And it is so beautifully written. And the last set of lyrics are I'm I am alone by myself. I live by myself. I won't hurt anyone, and that is not true. With you, trigger warning for suicidal ideology. If you think that you can have one person that could be affected by you unaliving yourself,
Oh, come
that's
on,
the
just say the
person.
word.
That's the person. What? Take the suicide?
Yeah, like just we've all decided, myself and Joe, that we're not gonna go into the TikTokification route. If we lose monetization because of saying the word suicide, then that is a price we pay. But
Yeah.
like unalive and all
But
that
yeah,
nonsense, it sounds awful.
the one that I hate is when um, somebody commits suicide and they say they lost the battle with themselves. No, they fucking didn't. No, they fucking didn't. No, you did not lose that. They did not lose that battle with themselves because you don't know the many wars that they had with themselves to even get to that point, and they pulled themselves through every single one. They didn't lose a battle at all. Don't talk down to somebody who has made that ultimate decision. Don't infantilize it. Don't talk down. Don't disrespect somebody they've obviously fought until they had nothing physically and mentally left. So don't take that. Don't take their last act of war upon them out and diminish it. But before you stepped on it, I was saying, for if you can think of one person when you get to that point who will be sad, and I don't mean in a nobody will miss me if I'm gone way. Think about a friend, a family member, a sibling, a child. If you can think of one person and see that next sunrise, because I'm not going to tell you it gets better and it gets easier, but you found the person that you want to impress upon, that you still want to be there, see what their life is. That's your reason for staying.
Cool. On that note, it is time for you to say the ending line. Don't fuck it up.
Oh no, no pressure. So we're going to take 2 steps to the rear and get out of here. We're in the wind. See ya.
I'm going to do the Joe line where I just say, well, wait a little bit and then say bye. Bye.